Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a super cool puzzle where it is white to play and win. Take a second, look at this position. Black is threatening all sorts of stuff. Mate on g2, mate on h1, a lot of scary stuff happening. What can you do? Notice that this pawn is pinned currently because this bishop is playing on this diagonal. A lot of very scary threats. How do you address them? Well, there's a way. White to play and win. Take a second, think about the solution, see if you can find all the moves. I'll give you a hint, it's a mate in 4. See if you can find the first move, maybe the second move. See how far you can get in the sequence, perhaps seeing if you can find the central idea. Maybe you can't work out all the details, but that's totally okay. Okay, before I share the solution, let me quickly encourage you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, so every like, every subscriber helps us out so much, and it also helps out charity. Okay, let's get started. So my impulse is to look at all of these pieces that can give a check and think about those checks. The rook can give a check, the knight can give a check, the bishop can give a check, the queen can give a couple of checks. So what do we do? How do we evaluate these different moves, figure out whether they're good or bad, and then move on from there? Well, that's the process of thinking in chess. So let's do it. Let's first go with maybe the silliest looking move, but we got to consider it. Queen b8. Something like this. Looks pretty cool, but does it do anything? Well, it forces the rook to take because the king can't take. But what after that really happens? You might think there's a fancy check here. Not really. Everything is completely guarded. You can block with one of these two rooks. I won't tell you which one. Actually, I will tell you which one. The one on B. So you can figure out what happens if you block with the wrong rook. That might be a hint for later. And there's no fancy mate to be found. So you have all these checks. The queen I just showed. Let's talk about the rook. The rook check. So you have to, I should probably say, you have to make a check because if not, you're going to get mated right away. Right? If you make a defensive move like this bishop f1, you're going to get mated on h1. So it doesn't make any sense. You have to throw the kitchen sink at the black king right now. You just have to. So if you look at this rook takes, what happens? Well, they can take with the bishop or they can take with the rook. And either way, there's nothing really happening. They can just block all these checks. Nothing really goes bad. They can just take. All these diagonals look scary, but they're not actually anything. This knight can't do anything. But, very important note, it looks like something is brewing here. Right, the bishop and the other bishop are bearing down on the king like I just showed. This knight has a check, but it just doesn't work at this moment. This rook is pinned. Maybe there's something here. That's what you have to ask yourself. That's how you have to think about it. Okay, so what is the first move? I will tell you the first move. The first move is bishop check. It is bishop e4 check. Okay, let's talk about the obvious bad move. If they play rook c6, do you take this rook? Well, you can, but they just left the back rank and you have a supported queen. Just mate them. Checkmate in 1 wins the game. It's always good to play that. You'll still win if you do this, but it's not nearly as fun. Okay, so you play bishop e4. They have to block with the rook on h7. That's the only sensible move. Okay, this arrow. So now what? Well, now you have to ask yourself, I have this bishop pinned at the moment. I have this queen bearing down on b8. I have this rook bearing down on a7. How do I make it work? Well, there's a particular order to these things, and that's the whole goal. If I were to play rook takes, this bishop can take. And now there's no threats because like I was just showing with the red arrows, this queen sacrifice doesn't lead to anything because the bishop can play a defensive role in that. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the right move has to start with the queen. The order is critical here. If you play queen b8, there's only one move. You can't take with the king because the bishop is defending the queen. You can't take with the rook because the rook is currently pinned. And that leaves only one other defender, which is the rook on c8. Okay, from here, take a second. From here, can you solve the mate in 2? It might look hard, but it's not as bad when you think about forcing moves. Okay, this is kind of a nice aesthetic ending here. The final answer is to sacrifice the rook. Like I said, throwing the entire kitchen sink at the black king. Take. They can only take one way. They can't take with the king because the knight is defending. They can't take with the rook because it's still pinned, which means they have to take with the bishop. Can you spot the mate in 1? The mate in 1 is knight c7. Bang. Put this king in a box. That's over. This rook is pinned. They can't take. All of this material that black has is not enough. They're up 17 points of material, and it's not enough to win the game. Now, before you go away from this video, take a second to understand why the order mattered so much. So remember, earlier I was saying you have to play these moves in the right order. If you play rook takes first, now this bishop can watch over this square. So if you play this line, they just take, and there's no more threat of mate. Similarly, at the very, very beginning, like I was showing, all these checks don't work because if I do here, I gotta do this first. If I do this, they take, and they can fall into it if they're not careful. For example, if they play this bad move, then this whole sequence works, but that's only if they blunder. Because like I was saying, they don't move this rook. Instead, they move this one. And this is now a win for black. The best you can do is just throw everything at the king and hope for a bunch of checks. And even now, this is what the computer's saying. Very important note, no stalemate. The bishop can move. And what do? Pick your favorite way to mate. Great. So the order is critical here. You have to check. And you have to check with this bishop. You can't get away with the queen because you need the queen here to support this very nice sacrifice at the end on b8. So that's pretty much it. Just to see it one more time. You sacrifice the queen, they take it. You sacrifice the rook, they take it, and you box them in on c7 with a very, very aesthetic smothered mate. Cool. Well, that's a lot of fun. Hopefully you saw it. Let me know in the comments. Did you see 1 move deep? Did you see 2 moves deep? Did you see the whole thing? Maybe you did. There's a lot of levels who watch the channel, and I really want to know where you're at because I don't know what kind of videos to make. For one person, this might be too easy. For another person, this might be too hard. But yeah, that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.